Hey, welcome back to the Social Services Maven. I'm Jamila, and today I want to talk about the spiritual aspects of being a case manager slash social worker and how we have this occupation that allows us to utilize a profound gift, and that is that gift of speech and conversation, and also of being resourceful in a quote unquote resourcefulness, a lack of resources industry. And so I kind of I started a spiritual journey about 5 years ago now. And through that journey, I had a lot of trauma that I had to deal with and I had to go through and, use as power. And what I learned through that was a couple of things. That one, anger is a powerful thing, a powerful emotion when used correctly. Anger that does not turn into rage more than likely turns into passion. And it's kind of like that passion of the Christ that turns into us being able to be used on God's behalf to heal the minds and assist the souls of other fellow human beings. That was one of the first things I noticed, was that about anger, because I had a lot of anger. And working in mental health, anything that has to do with trauma, anything that has to do with even lack of housing, food, health care, eventually when that need is not met, it turns into rage. And we see a lot of rage that becomes generational trauma because of the system. They're mad at the system, and that rage is not transmuted into a passion to either get a skill set, better utilize, better their health, or go look for help in the first place. But as I went through that, and I was able to come to terms with myself, really start being in alignment with my true self, it allowed me to see myself as a manager and being the spiritual aspect of my role in management. So I started this channel because case managers are frontline staff. They are the first contact that someone in need comes across. And most of the time, they are meeting a mirror of themselves. And what that means is, a lot of times case managers and social workers have their own trauma because they have trauma, maybe because they are from the community and they are of the community. They could be like peer support staff. And that is a business model for a lot of nonprofits and social services agencies. They are incentivized of hiring people from those backgrounds. And a lot of, even in the state of Texas, you are a certified peer support individual because you come from that background. You get certification to like validate your experiences, which is bonkers to me. But with that, and I could say like they maybe, let's say, beat the system, it does not mean they were able to deal with their own trauma to use it correctly. And what I mean by using it correctly is that they have the foundation of the true self and not the trauma. A lot of people build their careers or lives around the trauma and not who they are, because who you are in an event or a series of events is not truly you. It is the experiences around you. And so they are, in my experience, I have seen where a lot of social workers who have maybe a survived experience of child abuse, of sexual abuse, of substance abuse, of untreated mental health, they become a very like bootstraps type of person of like, well, if I did it, you can do it. And if you're not doing it right now, it's because you don't want to do it. And that's not true, because that might not be where that person is at within their journey. And that's why we always meet people where they are. But as I've gone through my own spiritual walk, and I will, clearly state that I am a Christian. I believe 100% in Jesus. I'm not a radical. I am like Jesus is. It's me and I am Jesus. We the homies. You get what I'm saying? But what I have noticed is that utilization of mercy and grace. You know, Jesus clearly says to us that mercy is all he asks of. It's not sacrifice. It's not like I have to feel the pain of going to work. But mercy is like, I have the power as a social worker to give you a diagnosis that's going to mess your life up. I have the power as a caseworker to not house you. I have the power of a caseworker to not turn in your paperwork because you said something rude to me. You told me you was going to beat my ass when I got out of this office, or you called me a bitch, or you said, fuck you, ho, I'll whoop your ass. Those are times for us as case managers and as social workers to use mercy. And sometimes that is not always used. It becomes a power play. It becomes, well, I am not going to extend that to you because you were rude. I'm going to make you sit in your pain. And that's not our responsibility to do. Our responsibility is to give grace and kindness. And grace comes up for us is that we are 100% clear in our paperwork. We are 100% clear in the flow of that paperwork. We are 100% clear in the notes that we are writing on behalf of the person so that they can get the help that they need, or turning in their paperwork on time for them to be housed. It is your responsibility as the licensed therapist that you are correctly diagnosing them and following up on the treatment plan that you and the client have worked on together. That is our role, and that is grace showing up within our roles. Mine is if you believe in Jesus. Mine is if you were a Christian. If you as a human being on the other side of the system, helping the person on the other side of the system to be sure that the system is not failing them. Because this homelessness that we are seeing and this generational poverty that we are seeing is the system not working on the behalf of the person. And I want to also be clear that the system is not really meant to help people. It's to an extent meant to keep people in the cycle of poverty. But you, as the professional that is working in that industry, me as the professional that's working in that industry, within that system, we are a part of a larger ecosystem. And depending upon how we want to play it, and depending upon our own internal power, we can change that system. And that takes mercy, grace, and kindness. And kindness for us is that we have access to rooms as a professional that our people of our community do not have access to, which means we have access to the supervisors when our grants are going up, when we have written for a contract and we need to get that approved. We have access to the mayor because we have political and policy power, which means that if we can minimize the constituents of that zip code or that population from being high utilizers of the emergency room and high utilizers of the jail system versus getting community health care, that's where our kindness comes in. That when we go into those meetings, that we're not going in aggressive, we're not pointing the finger at them, we're not saying racist things, we're not saying negative things, we're not doing things that's going to personally attack the individual. We are going in and we are bringing salt to the conversation. It says in the Bible that you speaking to someone, I'm not saying that's what it says, I'm not going to say it verbatim, but basically, when you speak to someone and you add salt to the conversation, which is flavor, kindness is a flavor. It is a way of us approaching negative things, hard to talk about things in a way that lands on people to think about it from the perspective of the heart. And so I'm saying this because what we are entering into in our society is something that we've never seen before. The amount of artificial intelligence and machine learning that is taking away jobs from non-skilled or unskilled workers, we're about to have a boom in poverty. I put on one of my, what are those things called? Those shorts that nonprofits are about to be the number one bankers because of universal basic income. And the research that is happening is that they want to see how can we maintain consumerism. America bloodline is consumerism. Inflation that we're experiencing right now is a response because people of the US are saving money. They are moving away from consumerism. From COVID, we were spending money because we were in the house. And now people like, I have all the things and I want human connection now. So what have they done? It takes money to have connections sometimes if you have to drive to grandma's house or if you have to fly to grandma's house. So now the oil prices have gone up. Now the food prices have gone up so that your money can go down. It can put our minds back into the state of worry. It is the pool of your desires. And if you know what your desires are, our concrete desires are food, shelter, water, and connection. That is the four things that our system always attacks. The system that is. But how can we respond to that as caseworkers and as social workers? By us being merciful, by us showing grace, and us being kind to the people who we're going to come in contact with as they come through our nonprofit doors, our social services doors, and penetrating their minds to be above it. We live in this world. We live in this system. We do not have to be in agreement with this system. And if we have the power to speak to children, to speak to adults, to speak to seniors, and show them how to use their minds above this, that is the core of our responsibility then. It is not contingent on our paycheck. It is not contingent on the organization you might work for, because you're doing it under the power of grace. So therefore, protection is aligned to that, and that protection can unfold as you being promoted or you being fired, but it's still protected. And how you know it's protected is that it will be easy. You will have confidence in what you say when you go to work. You will have confidence when you sit at those tables. You will have confidence when you speak to those difficult clients. So I just wanted to come on here to bring the spiritual aspect of what we do, because sometimes I am very caught up in the numbers and caught up in, what's coming. What's coming is here. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the cycle of America. I mean, who cares? You know what I'm saying? They're going to do what they're going to do. But you are in control of you. And you have a position of power more than what you think. Don't let the, they say the burnout, the compassion fatigue of caseworking. It's true. I've had it multiple times. I have gone out on leave like probably 3 times in my now 12-year career, because that secondary trauma just kept hitting me in the face. But I was not going in equipped. I was not going in with my power. And my power is mercy, grace, and kindness. And when I cannot find that, when someone has triggered me, I need to identify the trigger first, and then I need to step away. I need to step away and identify, why is this making me mad? Why is this making me want to not be a nice person to this individual who's in a worse position than me? And once I am able to come to that in whatever practices you do, I pray, I read the Bible, I write in my journal, I cuss. You get what I'm saying? And once I'm able to go back to that, okay, I can go back tomorrow and deal with this. Because for many years, I had issues with Black women. I'm a Black woman, but I had a lot of issues towards Black women, because I was coming across a lot of women when I worked in LA who were trafficking other women. And I couldn't respect that. I could not sit in that. And that took me a long time, when I had to sit in rooms with people who were identified rapists, who were identified sexual assault abusers, who have molested kids, because you have access to their files. And that bias, and I knew my power, that I could have kept that joker homeless, that that was a test of my strength. That was a true test of my strength. And when you were in this role, you're going to have multiple situations where it's a test of your true heart, where you're like, how am I going to use this? Like, I'm a book at them because the system. That's not your place. That is only God's place. And it's not for you to come in here playing God. I don't know if y'all watch P Valley, but he was like, you want to play God, homie? And he shot him. And that's you. Like, don't get in the way of somebody else's karma. That karma is going to be dealt with. They put it out there. They did the act. Let God do what God does, because God is going to get it in a way that you could never do it. Could never. And I'm going to close with a story. In my last building, I worked in the TL of San Francisco. And if anyone knows the Tenderloin of San Francisco, it is like a Stephen King movie, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I had a veteran who at the beginning was a very, calm individual, but he had schizophrenia that he stated that he self-treated. And he was also racist. And he came to me and he said, do you want your daughter to be raised in Africa? And this was my first time in my career that I had children. I had never been personally attacked like that. And I am a mama bear. I'm an alpha female. You mess with my kids, that mercy gonna be missing sometimes. Like, straight up. Don't even speak on my kids. Don't even speak on my family at all. But that was something I had chose to be a practice of bringing my personal life to work, and like sharing that I have a family, because I was so private. And I felt like he used that against me. And I like looked at him and I'm like, oh my God. I went into a professional rage, which means I called a meeting with everybody and higher up, and I put a stipulation onto his list, like if you ever come to me again and say something like that and so racist where I feel threatened, I will have you evicted, and be sure I would be sure that I put a block on your Section 8 to say that you are a threat to any community that you go to, because I had power. I had power as a case manager to do that. And I was able to organize and orchestrate that with my higher levels up to have that conversation. But instead of me doing that, because I was so shocked that I always said I took it home. I don't take work home, but I took it home. And I said, God, it's about to go down. And God had to check me. So I sat there and I sat on that and I prayed on that. And God was like, you were one of many. You were one of so many dark things this man has already done. He had shared those dark things with me. He was a Vietnam vet. He would come in and we would sit down and have conversations when he said the darkness would come in. And he would share with me like the brutal things that he did to people in Vietnam. And I was like, wow, to carry that in your psyche all of these years is tough. And I was like, and God was like, don't worry about it. And you know what that man eventually did? He called me on a Saturday. He said, Jay, I'm calling to tell you that I love you. Don't tell your husband, but I love you and I appreciate everything you have done. And he committed suicide. And I'm not saying that that was his retribution because he was mean to me. What I'm saying is that that man had pain, and that I was going to add to his pain by making him homeless again because he hurt my feelings. Because for him to have triggered me, it means that he actually had a level of power to send my child to Africa, which he did not have to do. And those are the things that, as a caseworker and a social worker, you have to check within yourself. You have to say that I'm giving the person power when they pull on my emotions, on my heartstrings, when it ain't even the truth. So I close with, you were needed. But you got to get yourself suited and booted in armor if you're going to go off into this field. And it can only come, the suited and the bootedness can only come through you knowing you and you dealing with you. So when you go into those rooms with the rapist, when you go into those rooms with a molester, that you were not there to be the judge. You were not there to be the judge and jury. You were there to do something on the behalf of God, not of the organization, on the behalf of God. And whatever Holy Spirit tells you to do within that moment, then let it be. Because it's going to take care of itself. Thank you.